Hi and welcome. We're so happy you're joining us today. Getting your data into one place, using your data to make operating decisions, and optimizing your inputs are the pillars of the FieldView platform. I'm Andrew Elgersma, and I'm a climate business manager for Climate FieldView. Today, along with my colleague, Troy Prasovsky, we're going to discuss using FieldView live in the cab at harvest. Each season brings with it its own unique challenges and opportunities. And we want to show you how engaging in FieldView can help provide you with more powerful insights specific to your farm to propel your business forward. Our team is on standby to answer your questions live. Please use the chat feature on site with any questions throughout this webinar. As a reminder, all previous webinars are hosted on www.climatefieldview.ca/webinars, and they cover all relevant topics like setting up your virtual farm, using and creating prescriptions, using field health imagery, and our previous episode on the pre-harvest checklist. Today, we have a special guest with us. He's part of our team, but Troy, you know him best, so I'm going to let you introduce him to our viewers today.
Yeah, you bet. I like to introduce Cory Brasch. Cory Brasch is one of our climate business manager associates. We have 5 of them across Canada, and they play a really crucial role in what we do. They not only help us develop the product and advance it, but they also help our customers out with any technical issues they have. A lot of compatibility stuff is run through our CBMA team. We have a really strong team, and there's some unique things about Cory that I wouldn't do it justice. I'd love it if Cory give us a little bit of a high level on some of his past.
Thanks, Troy. Thanks, Andrew. Welcome to be here. My name is Cory Brasch. I live, work, and kind of farm out of the parkland in Manitoba. Grew up on the family farm, grain farm. I've always kind of been part of the farm since the early 2000s, but not really in depth. Actually, kind of moving home, settling down again in 2015, I think. My brother-in-law, a good friend of ours, and myself, we took over the family farm and kind of been growing it from there. So it's actually our 7th crop, which is exciting. And I kind of started in the computer industry, working for a school division and different operations. Actually, one summer, was kind of researching something called GPS. I didn't know what it was back in that day, the day I was looking for it, but that path kind of took me in a new direction. Kind of got out of the computer world, kind of into the GPS world. I probably spent about 15 years in GPS with multiple brands. And basically that kind of took me on the path that I came in today. Kind of being in the industry for a while. I think it was probably the fall of 2019. I was kind of looking a little closer at another new word that I was new to, but it's kind of data collection and kind of looking at companies out there. Climate FieldView really struck me. It looked like kind of an industry leader. I secretly kind of been watching them since 2017, since they came to Canada. So yeah, I took a leap of faith and actually applied for a job with Climate. And lucky enough, rest is history. I'm here, started probably December of 19. And yeah, it's exciting because I get to kind of stay on the family farm. I get to be involved in agriculture. And one of the best things is I get to keep with the customers that I've met over the last 15, 20 years. So it's great.
That's awesome, Cory. Thanks for joining us today and taking some time out of your schedule. I want to go over some really important topics with us today. I want to talk about FieldView features at harvest. I want to get your insight. What are the features that your customers are asking for, and what are the features that you find most valuable for our viewers and our watchers here today?
Yes, for sure. So when I was kind of trying to think of this topic, I could probably do a top 15 or a top 20, but I want to kind of talk about maybe 10 things that I use kind of every day on the farm and what helps me during harvest and throughout the season. So kind of came up with my top 10 that I like to talk about. Yeah, so the first one's FieldView Drive data collection. So basically with data collection, it starts obviously by putting your boundaries in, collecting some imagery, collecting some rainfall, kind of looking at what's happening within your boundaries. But then as you move through the seasons, you can actually do some crop performance and some data visualization. When talking about drive data collection, we kind of look after three segments. We look after, we're mainly collecting and planting, spraying, and harvest. And so today being harvest and getting close to harvest here, we just want to talk a little bit more in depth. Obviously, with every segment that we're looking at when collecting data, we want three main things. We want to make sure we're in the right field, the right crop year, and the right crop type. And with harvest, we also want to make sure that our header heights are set up properly so that we're collecting data in the field and not turning in headlands. So number two, quick and easy access to historical data, planting application, and yield maps. So it's a great way to compare data. We can compare the data that we're doing today based on data that we did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So we can kind of go back in history to see what worked best on the farm and kind of plan for next season. We can kind of choose, and we can kind of base our yield based on hybrids and varieties. Where I use it the most is kind of to visualize yield against trials that I've done. So maybe a fertilizer trial that we've done on the farm, maybe a fungicide trial we've done on the farm, so we can kind of see that data in real time. And the quick, easy access to planting dates and harvest dates, which is important. So third is in-cab analysis to evaluate field yield and hybrid performance. So in-cab analysis is very important. We see lots of variability across the fields and across the farm. Obviously, we've taken the time to get the crop this far, and we do take a lot of time after harvest to look at this data, but let's face it, we spent so much time getting it to this point. We want to see some real-time data. We want a report card. We want some validation of what we've done all season. And so it basically, we're able to view yield and moisture differences between our hybrids and the trials that we're doing in the field. Number four is split screen functionality. So this kind of plays back to points 2 and 3. So we can actually see some of this data in a split screen. It's a very useful function. I use it real time in the cab, and I use it in the off season in the office. We're always wanting to look at split screen, maybe yield versus variety, yield versus population, basically yield against any trial that you've done on the farm. Fungicide trials is big, but it allows you to see that data in real time, as we'll show you maybe later on, actually in the cab while you're working. Number 5 is monitoring dry down and desiccation conditions. So the FieldView health imagery is very valuable for me during harvest because let's face it, we all need boots on the ground to validate a lot of the stuff that we're looking at. But as farms grow and farm distances and field distances are far apart, it's just a quick reference to kind of know, okay, did I desiccate this field on this day? And maybe which one might be ready. It just kind of gives you a quick overview of the farm. So maybe if you're looking at the whole farm and you pick a couple fields that might be next in the harvest line, instead of driving the whole farm every day, I can kind of pinpoint those specific fields. Number 6, using rainfall and radar to help plan daily harvest decisions. So on the farm, and in life, we plan, we triple plan, but in the end, Mother Nature wins. So maybe because a certain operation fits my schedule and we're planning to move equipment to this side of the farm or move to this RM, or we plan something in a day, Mother Nature spins it and it rains, or there's a forecast predicting rain. So it's kind of nice. I can actually kind of check some rainfall, check some radar, while I'm having my morning coffee, so you can kind of better plan your day. It once again, rainfall is same as monitoring dry down, so you still need boots on the ground, but it gives you that quick reference that can save me a lot of time. Number 7, so planting and swathing dates to better prepare for harvest desiccation and harvest in general. So we all have those delays in planting, delays in spraying, delays in harvest with moisture and rain. And so this really helps me, even though we straight cut a lot of the farm, we're still doing some swathing and some swathing practices. So maybe in an instance where you had a half section of a crop and half of it got swathed one day, the second half got swathed 5 days later. Even though you drive down the road, you jump in the field, everything looks the same. Those swath dates and those spray dates can really help you to determine maybe where the crop's drying down, maybe where canola might be a little on the green side and not ready to harvest. So it's just kind of a quick reference. And it's one of the biggest things we found on our farm was planting dates. So maybe you get into a half section, you get into a section of land where 3/4 of it is done, but 1/4 of it is delayed because of rain. So that kind of helps me judge maybe when something should be sprayed and harvested, and just kind of gives me an insight to what our next plan is on the farm. Number 8, monitoring pins throughout the growing season. So example, rocks, washouts, different obstacles that pop up. In our part of the world where we grow rocks like crazy. So they're always popping up, they're always finding new places. But the thing is, whether I'm seeding or my brother-in-law's spraying or someone's doing on the farm, we see something, but we don't really communicate it to the rest of the farm. So we can actually drop pins. So maybe there was a washout while someone was spraying on the farm. And so we could actually put a pin to warn some of the other machines coming down the road, or again, in the field. It even just to mark rocks to be picked later, washouts to be fixed, but it just kind of gives us the opportunity to share with the other farm members of what we're seeing. But pins in general, it could be a weed that we're wanting to look at. It could be a trial that we're going to look at. So pins are huge, huge way for us to share information on the farm. Number 9, so remote view. I don't use this every day, but it's huge in my day job and in my farming world, because although I'd like to be in every cab of all you growers out there and be on the farm all the time, I can't be. I'm on the road, I'm helping other customers. So I'm away from the farm and away from customers quite a bit. So this gives me a chance to kind of log in, and it might be something as simple as I'm away from the farm, and maybe my dad's seeing some yield differences between our combines. I can kind of jump in, check things out. Maybe we've got a break or we've got something wrong. Maybe I'm on the road and a customer's needing some help. I can actually log in to see firsthand what they're seeing to try to help them out. And so basically it just kind of gives me an opportunity to maybe check a problem before I have to get on the road to come see you. So definitely helps in diagnosing some problems without being there. And number 10, field directions. So again, this is kind of not a use of every day, but it's helpful in FieldView, so we can actually get directions to different fields on the farm. Maybe I'm trying to get to a customer's field. He could actually give me directions. I use it sometimes for maybe some newer land that we've taken on, or different pieces that we've rented actually that my agronomist isn't used to. So we can actually give directions to fields. Obviously on the farm, we're communicating a fair amount, but maybe we got a new hired man. Maybe someone's come to the farm to work for a couple of days to help us out, so we can actually give directions so that we can all be in the same field at the same time and not be running around. So yeah, it's kind of my top 10. Like I said, I could probably do a top 30, but those are kind of the things I use every day in every segment. I use these things in seeding, spraying, and harvest.
Cory, what an awesome top 10. And I think, as we know with FieldView, different features have different value on every operation, right? Every operation is unique. Every field is unique. And so certainly that gives a good foray into, the different aspects that bring you value. And we appreciate you sharing that with all of our viewers here today. Do you think you could take some of our viewers through what the in-cab experience looks like at harvest, getting in the cab? I see you're in front of a combine currently. Can we do that here today?
Yeah, definitely. I can step you through some of the screens and kind of talk about it a little bit. Obviously, I'm not in the field. Maybe the next video will be actually in motion, but yeah, I'll kind of step through some of the screens and kind of what we see it on a day-to-day basis in the cab.
Awesome. Let's go do that.
Okay.
So Andrew, before we join Cory into the cab, there's a few things that I think our customers need to make sure that they have ready to go. I can think of a few off the top of my head. Number one, make sure that the app, the cab app, the white app is downloaded. It's up to date using the most current software. Also, the iPads are all up to date, and all of our data is synced with the other iPads, and all that information is in the cloud that we've created so far, and we're using the most current software, and our fields are all ready to go. Any other tips that you have for us?
Yeah, I think there's the one other one. I mean, we heard about Remote View as part of Cory's top 10, and that's a feature that's being increasingly used within FieldView. And, I think that there's lots of reasons for it. Some can be, as Cory alluded to, on troubleshooting. Others just can't wait to see how that field is going to yield, or maybe it's operational efficiency, and they're starting to see how many more trucks they may have to send out there, as an example. So, lots of reasons to do that. Just to take advantage of that, always advise, make sure that you've got a cell connection. You do require a cell connection on the iPad with the operator in order to get that data cloud synced and then available to those who may want a remote view. So just something to keep in mind as we get into harvest here.
Yeah, that's great. Now I say we jump into the cab with Cory and him give us a little bit of a live demo on what you're going to expect when you're in the cab.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, so today's definitely not an actual harvest date, but I wanted to kind of just step through some of the screens or some of the main screen to kind of show you some of the data that you'll see in real time while you're in the field. So basically, you can customize it to whatever you want to see, but for today's purpose, we're going to be harvesting corn, and I'll kind of just step you through some of the pieces that we're going to see. So actually in the top, I guess in the top middle to start with, I kind of briefly talked about earlier, it's very important to make sure that you have the right field selected that you're going to harvest, the right crop type and the right crop year. Because obviously we want the data to go into the right place. So actually these are the three tabs, field, crop year, and type. And then actually the third tab is the tab that we can change throughout the day to see different information that we want to see in real time, whether it be yield or dates or basically anything that we want to see, moisture. So kind of moving into the left side of the screen here. In the top right, it shows your yield and your moisture. So as you're harvesting across the field, it'll actually give you two yields and two moistures. It's going to give you instant yield in real time, and it's going to give you the field average. So today, and for the purpose of this demo, the instant yield is about 179, but the field average is about 170. So you kind of get to see instant and average and kind of know what's going on in the field. And same with moisture. It shows you instant real time, and then gives you an average of the field. As you scroll down on the left-hand side, it shows your field acres. Pretty much every monitor in the cab will be tracking this. If you look at the screen, it looks really busy. There's actually a lot of happening. So this 11.7 acres that is actually on the screen is what this combine is doing. We actually have multiple combines going in the field. So this is basically just telling you the data of your combine that you're in. And if we go further down the left-hand side, it shows you the total field pounds, the bushels per acre for this load, which I'll get into, and the pounds for this load that we're doing. We can actually do trial loads based on what you want to do in the field. So we can do actually a test load for per hopper, per grain cart, per tandem truck. Obviously, if we have a 300-acre field of all the same crop, you're not really needing to do loads, but where it comes into play is if you have trials. So if you have trial A, B, C, and D, we can actually do a load trial for each trial and collect that data based on that variety. So in the bottom here, it actually shows that we're on load 5. So this is the 5th load that that this combine is actually recording. Actually, in the left of the bottom here, it is header height. And so you'll notice header height is very important for combining because we don't want to collect bad data in the headland or while we're turning and not actually harvesting. So right now, the number actually is at 34%, meaning the head is in cutting position. And then you'll see as the video plays, the header will actually lift in the headland and the percent will go up, and then the data will actually stop collecting at that point. Another interesting piece you'll see as we move along in this quick demo, but actually the variety that we're harvesting. So this field actually has 2 varieties of corn. And so right now we're actually in DKC, this variety. So we can actually simply create a new load by hitting the new load button and move forward. So actually, as the video kind of moves along here, in the top, as I mentioned, the top here, this 3rd tab, yield. So basically, the gradient that you're seeing on the screen right now is yield based on the legend in the bottom right corner. But we can quickly tab over to moisture by going up to that tab and choosing moisture. And now we're real time, we're seeing the moisture across the field. We can actually see and kind of track that. So we can actually move to see the data that we want to see in real time. Sometimes, obviously, this is just the main screen. And actually in my top 10, I kind of talked a little bit about split screen. So we can actually move into a split screen by choosing the split screen button. We'll go back to yield here real quick as we scroll through here. But now we can actually move into a split screen. So we can be viewing, in this example, we're seeing yield on the right side and the hybrid on the left side. So we can actually see the gradient change, the orange and the blue. And so we're actually seeing the real-time data yield on the right based on where we are in the field and what variety we're actually harvesting. So we can actually view yield based on population. We can do yield based on a lot of options to see in real time. So that split screen gives you a lot of information. Maybe you're harvesting towards a fertilizer trial that you're doing, or you're harvesting towards a fungicide trial that you're doing. So you could actually see those trials in the left side based on yield and moisture on the right side. So the split screen gives you a lot of information. You'll see actually the combine moving towards the top here. We can actually, there's buttons on the right-hand side. Basically, we're toggling between split screen, but we can actually pull up a quick yield report anytime during the field to kind of see how the different varieties are doing. In this case, we have 2 varieties in the field, and just a quick report you can pull up at any time during the field to kind of see how the field is doing. In this case, variety A is doing about 169 bushels per acre, and the other variety is 167 respectively. The moistures are really close within 0.1. So you can just kind of have a quick reference. So obviously you can see one screen yield, you can see split screen between varieties and trials, but you can also pull up this quick report just to see that what yield the varieties are doing. Just keep scrolling over here real quick. So now you can actually see the header height control. So the combine has actually passed into the headland now, and so he's actually lifted the head. So the percent actually goes up to 54% is where it's set. So now as he's making the turn in the headland, it's not collecting data that we don't want. And when he actually comes back into the field, the header height would go back to the right level. Basically, at any time, we can actually, so all the loads that we're doing, so say that we had 6 trials, we had 6 varieties that we're trialing, and we've done 6 loads for each trial. We can actually just quickly press the load button to see a quick reference of what the different loads are doing, and it keeps track. So like I said, you could do a load per hopper, per tandem, per grain bin, but in this case, they're actually doing it per trial. And so we're currently on load number 6. And we can see that we did 0.46 acres. The average yield was about 167. Moisture was 17.7, but we can actually look at each load individually. So each load had its own acre count and and bushels per acre. So whatever trial number 5 was really good. It was up to 223 bushels per acre, but they just give you another quick reference to while you're in the field doing trials and to see the real-time data. And then one other interesting thing is as we scroll across, right now we're in variety A. Actually, I guess right here. So as the combine's coming down the headland, we're actually in variety A. And so it's the combine's picking up what variety he's harvesting, but as he comes and actually passes into his next pass, the variety has changed. So FieldView knows where it is in the field, what variety it's gonna harvest, and most likely probably make another load 7 as that trial. So that's just kind of a quick overview of what we see in the cab. So you can always see your yield, your acres, and kind of the total production that you're doing in the field.
That's great, Cory. I think the visualization is perfect and bang on. I do want to mention one thing that you know, when we see those boxes illuminated on the left and our drive is solid blue, we know we're connected and we know we're able to collect data. So if for some reason you don't see those boxes illuminated on the left or the bottom, then that's very important for you people out there that they're like, what's going on? It doesn't seem like I'm collecting data. That's where the issue is. It's likely not Bluetooth connected to the drive. So you can see the drive is right beside Cory's iPad there in the cab. Great place for it. Then you know exactly when it's that it's actually connected.
Yep, good point.
Well, Cory, you just start to get me excited as I see you in the cab there, and you've got FieldView connected, and you know, we're watching the yields come in. I think so many good decisions happen with this data, and you know, it influences a lot of what we start to look at. What hybrid are we going to grow? What population changes might we make the following year? Is there a fungicide or a fertilizer application that we're going to scale up after conducting some on-farm trials? There's lots of great opportunities. And so we really just want to thank you for taking our viewers through this with you today.
Oh, no problem. It's my pleasure.
So Troy, the one other thing I wanted to bring up is that, you know, there may be some users out there that say I'm not compatible with the FieldView drive, or maybe I don't even have a yield monitor yet. And can we help those users get data into FieldView?
Yeah, you bet. That's there is a great way to do it. Now, it doesn't serve all of our purposes, but it's a great entryway into starting to look at yield maps. And what we do is we basically have to know what the average moisture was of the field after harvest. And then we have to know the total weight of that crop after harvest. So you'd actually be able to take a satellite image, and you would, it kind of gives you a good representation of what's going on in the field. You're like, yeah, that's where my sandy areas are. That's the area that has the most vegetation and typically the most yield. And you put that information into the system, and you can go to our support site, go to www.support at climatefieldview.ca, and you'll be able to find these videos on how to upload this information. But basically you put that in and it'll give you a map, and it's on a 5-meter pixel. So basically you're able to see where the areas of the field are that are yielding well, and maybe areas that aren't yielding as well. So I've had feedback from customers that are very keen on doing stuff like this and have their own yield maps, and they tell me the accuracy in it is incredible. So when I hear that feedback, that's really good. It wouldn't be something that I would use to compare varieties, to do variety or treatment trials. It's not necessarily for anything like that, but it does give you a really good idea on where the yield is in your field, and if you're using that information for future years for maybe soil sampling or for making recommendations on fertility or seeding. And
then, you know, for those combines we have that we don't have a yield monitor in them, we talked a little bit last week about a couple of new options I know we've got a recent addition with the new cab app with Farm TRX and some new capabilities there. There's many other yield monitors from Trimble, YieldSense, with Precision Planting, John Deere. So, there are many options still for retrofitting those combines, and then being able to bring that data in, which we know that harvest data is also valuable for making decisions going forward. So I just want to thank you for watching here today. This concludes this webinar. We hope you found some new opportunities for finding value in streaming your harvest data live in the combine for the upcoming harvest season. I think Cory's done an excellent job helping us get that value and understand it. And there's so much that this can do in order to help us make decisions from that data. As always, you can view past episodes at climatefieldview.ca/webinars. And from all the folks at Climate FieldView, have a safe harvest season.
Thanks.